So cobalt, is it that the mineral itself that you are defining in your book, is it so wealthy, or is it just that it's so unique? What triggers the plot?
The part of the plot is people that say they're environmentalists, but they're not, right? They're just trying to rob everybody. Um, and it's a
That
certain,
sounds like the Christian
yeah.
ministers at the turn of the last century.
And then the it's discovered by China, and what the discovery was, how it was done was, the cobalt found in a meteor crater, and the Chinese scientists were able to go ahead and make such small renewable energy motors with this cobalt, that Russia or China decides to weaponize their military and run their tanks and armored vehicles totally without fuel.
Mhm.
So they do some painting on the outside of their tanks. They're able to run them. All they have to do is change crews out. They got electromagnetic guns in them where it doesn't take any ammo, and it's all self sufficient. And Team Texarkana, which was in the first book, Flames of Deception, they go in and try to foil it. It's all international intrigue and CIA. I introduced a new CIA agent in there and call her the chef, because she's, they call her, CIA squared, because she is a CIA agent, but she's also a graduate of the CIA Culinary Institute of America. So she's a trained chef, and she's an assassin. And how she kills people is through food that cannot be detected, uh, that kill them, poison. So that's her specialty.
I told you that one of my hobbies when I'm traveling, especially when I was in Russia, but in Mexico as well, I the Russians, every partner you have there will drink you under the table. That is considered just
Oh yeah,
great fun there.
yeah.
So, roaming around the archives, I've had the opportunity to go into a lot of their intelligence archives and their museums and so forth. And
Mm-hmm.
the effort that they put into developing undetectable poisons and so forth. I mean, it's
Oh
right
yeah,
there in front of God and everybody in their museums, and how they got to that.
yeah.
Um, I love the technology part. I love the cobalt part. Well, one of the ingredients of my new book is the atomic battery, where you basically just insert a radioactive
Mm-hmm.
isotope into a diamond, and it
Mm-hmm.
generates electricity forever.
Oh,
They have
they
no
have
idea.
those small reactors. Yeah.
They
Wow.
have no idea how long it could go, but can be as tiny as a 1 carat diamond. Can power something for 5,000 years, and it may be longer. That's just their current guess.
Huh.
Um,
Interesting.
so those kinds of technology things, how important are they in your books?
Well, so the first book, Flames of Deception, I did a lot of research on satellite imagery
Mhm.
and how satellites work and different things that they could detect. And my son was, that's in the Army. That's what he did. He did 35 Golf geospatial imagery and intelligence analyst. And so we were out Virginia with some friends. I never ask him anything because I don't want to compromise anything that he does. I only let him read the books until they're done. And so we're one of the people that he was with. She had read the book, had already released, and she goes, Trav, she goes, what did you do in the Army? I said, oh, I was a Cav Scout. I mean, I was a reconnaissance specialist. And she looked at my son. She goes, your dad's pretty smart. Because what I do is I design the technology how I would want to be able to use it. And I have a software background where I want to, how do I want the real estate to look on a computer screen? Does it fly out? What happens when it flies out? And what can I grab? What can I do? What information can I get? So there's a lot of that technology. And I'm surfing the internet all over trying to find. I mean, I'm just waiting for somebody to drive up to my house and say, oh, "You need to come with us." You're putting stuff out that nobody should know. But and I have a good imagination. I grew up in the '70s.
I've I've had uh, I've had that experience in Russia, where
Oh
people came
wow.
up and said, "Hey, we'd like to chat with you." How and part of it is, if you have a good imagination and a good sense of how intelligence works and how technology works, you can guess where you've got to go next.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's not it's not it's this is not it is rocket science, but it's also common sense. Okay, if you reach this point, but you need to know this much more,
Yep.
here's what you have to do to get there. Um,
Yeah.
and I've had a couple of conversations with those two time Russian GRU officers. Never any
Okay.
risk of being arrested. They just
Mhm.
wanted to know, how did you come up with this idea that you're proposing, and how they knew what I was proposing to my clients, I don't know. Um, um,
Ears everywhere. Ears and
they're,
eyes everywhere.
they're ears everywhere. That's right. So
Everywhere. That's for darn sure. But I love the technology aspect
yeah,
of it. And that's a good point too, is when you write historical fiction, you've people will rake you over the coals if what's supposed to be right isn't right. Like technology. What did they have in 1918? When would the BAR come out? Right, July 1918, or because you can't introduce stuff that's not there unless it's like alternate history type of book, and I don't want to do one of those. I want to do historical fiction. That making sure the technology fits the time period is hard, unless you're doing a thriller or something like that.
it is, but at the same time, historical fiction allows you to write things that would almost seem to be
Mm.
science fiction. For example,
Yes.
In one segment of my first historical fiction series, in the Grit series, um, set in 1820, um, there was a confrontation between American sailors who were armed with breech-loading muskets.
Mm.
And the natives, of course, had only seen barrel-loading muskets, and could not understand how the Americans could reload as quickly as they could. It was science fiction to them. It was just completely amazing. And that's a fun thing to include, is how technology can change culture. And it did.
Yes.
This literally happened, and it did. The word of that got around all the native villages in Alaska within a year, that the Americans had figured out a gun that you didn't have to load from the barrel.
Yep.
It changed the relationship. It helped make the American transition more palatable, because we were considered to be so technologically advanced over the Russians that they wanted to if they were going to be ruled by anybody, they would rather have us.
Interesting. Yeah, even though the Colt won the West, right?
Yes.
45.
Yep.